Welcome to Quality Assurance and Software Testing Training. And so I'm Ankur and I'll be taking the session. So this is just a demo session to give you, understanding of what is going to be covered in the whole duration of the course. So I'd like to introduce myself. I have 11 years of experience in IT and I've been into many roles as a QA analyst to start with. I was a trainee and then I became a test lead, and finally I'm working as a senior test lead with one of the consulting firms which is there, and I have experience in sorry. So I have experience in e-commerce and telecom domain, and also in investment banking domain. So I worked with multiple projects wherein we started from the scratch with all the phases which are there in a IT project, like initiation where all the requirements come in, and the design phase and everything. So executing the whole project, I have the whole experience on that, and I have been majorly into testing role where I have done manual testing, and also I've done testing with QTP, which is Quick Test Professional, and Selenium using WebDriver. Okay, so moving on, if you have any questions, if you come up with any questions in this session or during the duration of this course, I'll be more than happy to answer them, and you can ask me the questions, and probably if I think that those questions can be answered in the later slides, we will park them, or I'll answer them then and there. Sounds good?
Yes.
Great. So this is the this is the course content which we are going to cover. Content that we'll be covering. This is presented over here module wise, but I'll be sending you another screenshot of the same where you will have all the details around which content is going to be covered in which session. We will be covering, first of all, module 1, we'll be covering the introduction to QA, software testing, where you will be provided with, all the, different types of testing, and what are we, where is the QA used, and what all domains is the QA, applicable for. Then we have module 2, where we will be discussing the software development lifecycle, or in this case, we'll be covering the software testing lifecycle and the quality standards. We'll be covering, in module 3, we'll be covering the testing concepts and manual testing. And in the module 4, we'll be covering requirements, configuration management, strategy, and defect lifecycle. Also in this, we'll be covering the requirement traceability matrix, how your requirements which are provided by the business users, how they are connected to each test case, and how you can fetch reports which will tell you that which requirements have been tested and which requirements have been met by the developers. Also, we'll be taking care of some of the testing tools which are used in the current market, like the quality assurance tools which are used for test case management and defect management, like Quality Center and Jira. And in automation, we'll be covering a brief overview of some of the tools which are there, like Selenium and QTP. So we'll be providing you with all the details around where Selenium is used, and what are the different modules which are there in Selenium, and also for QTP. Okay, so
Okay.
let's start off. So this is the module 1. where the topics are, you can read through the topics on your own. Like these topics are: what is testing, what is QA, are they the same or the difference? So when we talk about QA over here, it's quality assurance, and testing revolves around majorly around two things, which is quality control and quality assurance. So second thing is testing a technical job? Do you need any technical knowledge to do testing? Third thing is, what is the difference between projects and products? The fourth thing is, as I said, that testing revolves around two things: quality assurance and quality control. So what is the difference between quality assurance and quality control? The fifth thing is verification and validation. So what is verification, what is validation, and what is the difference between them? So during this course, we'll be covering the interview questions also, which are asked in any interview for tester role, and you will be provided with some sample questions as well and the answers to them, so you can probably revise them if you're going for some interview. So next thing that we are going to cover in this module is what are defects and what are bugs in a software testing, and what are the roles and responsibilities of a quality team, and so that's about it. So let's start off with the introduction to software testing. So can you do you guys have any idea what is software testing? Do you have? So don't look at this definition. You will find n number of definitions online, and they all hold true, somewhere or the other. As in, all of them are correct. Uh, but so any idea? Have you guys ever Googled around software testing, that what is software testing actually? Any idea? Vishal, can you give me some, do you have some idea about, what is software testing basically?
Uh, well, basically, I mean, like whenever the software is developed, we need to find out if it is according to client's wish, and do testing so we know what features have been implemented properly, and if there is any gap between the requirement and the development, and then fix those things.
Absolutely correct. So, yep. So software testing, if we go by this definition, software testing is a planned process that is used to identify the correctness, completeness, security, and quality of software. So testing is generally done to demonstrate that the software is doing what it is supposed to do, as well as the software is not doing what it is not supposed to do. So if we talk about this, so software testing, if we talk about this, there are some business. So whenever a project starts, the business users who are going to use the application or the website or any tool, like we are starting off with a project. So the end result is a product, and that product can be a application, it can be a website, or it can be any tool. Okay, so you start off with, and you go to the business users and you ask that what is your requirement. So they give you the requirement. So business users provide with business requirements. So next role that comes in is business analyst, and his job is basically to deduce those business requirements into scenarios that are applicable to testing the software. And then the testing team comes in, and what the role of testing team is that they take up these business scenarios that were created by business analyst, and they convert them into test cases. So before converting them into test cases, a lot of planning and a lot of strategy is done, that how are we going to test these business requirements? What type of testing will be done? So what a major thing that comes into test planning is that what type of testing is to be done. Okay. The second thing is that what are the things, or what are the features or functions that are going to be tested.
Can you open the screen? And it's so small. I'm really old lady with the glasses. I
Sure.
barely can see.
Okay, I'll just increase this.
Maybe you're young, I'm old.
Sure. Can you see it now?
Yeah, thank you, much better.
Most welcome. Okay. So what we discussed was that software testing, what happens is that whenever you start off with a project, so project initiation, the vendor who is going to do the project, they go to the business users, and business users provide them with the business requirement around the product that is going to be developed. Give me 1 second, please. So this is the project initiation. Then the business analyst comes in, he deduces these business requirements, and he converts them into business scenarios that are applicable to testing the software. And then the testing team comes in. What they do is they convert these business scenarios into the test cases. So before converting them into test cases, the test planning is done, and a strategy is implemented. A strategy is a strategy comes into picture, which covers that what type of testing is to be done, what are the features or functions that are going to be tested, what are the features or functions that are out of scope, as in they are not going to be tested. And it's very important to clearly mention that these things are going to be implemented for this project, and these things are out of scope, so that in the future the business users cannot get back to you and say that we said this thing to be implemented. So at that point of time, you can clearly show to them in the test plan that this thing was agreed upon, that this is out of scope and this will not be implemented. Because most of the times what happens is, during the starting of the project, the people who are there, they are not there, or they have been kind of replaced by other people. So it's very important to document your test plan and your test strategy. Okay, so once you have all that, figured out that, what type of testing and what features are to be tested, not to be tested, then you start off with the testing, uh, creating the test cases, and then finally, executing them and finding out whether they are, actually working or not. So this is software testing, that you are kind of testing as per the requirements which were given to you by the business, and you're checking the software for correctness, completeness, security, and quality of the software. So there should not be any bugs or any defects which are there in the software which you are not aware of, or you have not kind of, pointed out and they have not been made note of. So why it is important? If we see the example, in April of 2003, it was announced that the largest student loan company in the US made a software error in calculating the monthly payments on 800,000 loans. So there was, a slight error which kind of, did so much loss to the company, and there was reportedly, $8 million of interest that was, kind of lost. So this is why, it's very important to test the software. And this was probably a small glitch which was there in software, which was, missing out probably 50 cents per transaction, or maybe $1 per transaction. So each cent, each dollar counts to millions of dollars when it comes to, n number of loans or n number of transactions if we talk about international banking. Okay, so moving on, do we have any questions on this, around this? Okay, so moving on, as I said that, software testing is a combination of quality control and quality assurance. So what is quality assurance? So quality assurance is a planned and systematic way to evaluate quality of process which is used to test the software. So as per this definition, QA is a planned and systematic way to evaluate quality of process used to produce a quality product. So the same thing. The goal of QA is to provide assurance that a product is meeting customers' quality expectations or not. So let's say you are a tester and you are testing an application, okay? But so we can't go, merely by your words that, you have tested everything. So you should be able to provide substantial information, and that is through your test cases and through your defects that you might have, picked out. And by that process, you will be able to justify that yes, you have done all the type of, testing that is required for, ensuring the quality of the product. So that is quality assurance. So using the documents and following the correct process to, test the software to ensure quality of the product is called quality assurance. So when we talk about quality assurance, there are some tools which are there in the market which are used, like Quality Center. You will be getting a session on that as well, wherein you will be, walked through that, what are the different tabs which are there in Quality Center, how you work on Quality Center, and what are the things that are managed in Quality Center. So few of the things that are managed in Quality Center are the test cases that you write, the requirements which are sent by the business users, the defects which you encounter. Okay, so let me make a note of this. So Quality Center is a quality assurance tool which takes care of test management and defect management. takes care of requirements, test and defect management. So there are different tabs in quality center and it can be used for reporting purpose as well. So you'll be starting off as a tester if you are new to this, but moving on, when you become a senior person in the team, you will be responsible for reporting as well. So let's say you have a team of 3-4 people and probably 7-8 people in my case. So I am responsible for reporting whatever is being done by every tester, and that is through quality center, because quality center gives you you know it gives you a medium to fetch different types of reports around test cases, requirements and defects. So let's say there were like 10 requirements. So I have an option to fetch a report from quality center where it will give me the coverage, what is the coverage of each requirement and how it will do that, the associated test cases around that. Also it will tell me the how much test cases have been passed, failed, pending, in progress and all that. Also it will tell me the defects which were there, which were found, and what type of defect there were. I mean, were there a, was it a critical defect? So critical defect is if your whole workflow in a project, let's say if we talk about Amazon.com, and in Amazon.com you have an option to just go and buy any product from there, and let's say you're stuck at the add to cart, you're not able to add any of the product to the cart, so that's a critical defect. And so whether it's a high critical defect, high defect, or it's a medium severity defect, or it's a low severity defect, so these are the options that you get in quality center. So it's a quality assurance tool which is used for making sure that the correct processes are being followed to achieve good software product, good quality product. So moving on, the next question that comes into anybody's head that before joining the IT industry in the testing role, the question that comes in is that is testing a technical role? So do you need any technical knowledge around the same? So testing plays a crucial role in IT industry but does not require any technical knowledge when it comes to manual testing. So if we talk about manual testing, which is black box testing, so you don't need any technical knowledge for that. All you need to have is good communication skills, good technical skills, good leadership qualities, and analytical and judgment skills. So when we talk about communication skills, you need to have good communication skills because you should be able to portray what is exactly you are testing, how you're going to test it, and what are the different things that you're going to test. So analytical and judgment skills comes into picture there, that what are the different scenarios which you can think of to testing a product. So you don't need any technical knowledge for that. All you need is common sense, and other than that you need all these skills like communication skills, technical skills, leadership qualities, and analytical and judgment skills. So you should be able to think out of box because it's very important. It's not just the business requirements that you will be testing. You need to think what the customer is not able to think. I mean, at times it will happen that you will come up with some scenarios that customers also can't because you will be spending that much time with the product. So he or she, the tester, must develop out-of-box and critical thinking, be creative and strive for excellence. Technical skills come into picture when we talk about domain knowledge. Like you will be working on Julia, you'll be working on probably international banking applications, and at that point of time you would need to have the domain knowledge. Like what are these applications used for? Who are the business users? So that is the domain knowledge that is around international banking, in retail banking. Like I was working with investment banking where I was dealing with business users who are like fund managers and traders, and what they're doing is they are creating orders and placing creating orders for a security. They are buying stocks, they are buying shares for a security in the market, and in order to understand their work, I need to be familiarized with the applications that they are going to be using. So that is my technical knowledge, that is my domain knowledge which I have gathered around, with the experience of 7 years in investment banking. So this is where your technical skills come into picture. Also, if we say the technical role, that comes into picture when you have to do database testing. Okay, you have to do white box testing, and also you have to do automation testing. So for automation testing, you need to have some kind of technical knowledge wherein you need to have, probably you are proficient in one of the languages like Java or C Sharp and Python. So if you have that thing, then you can go for automation testing. So Vishal, which language are you working on?
I'm working mostly on Java.
Great. That will be great for you then, because for automation testing with the Selenium, which is the open source tool, you need to have either Java or some of the other languages. So if you have fair knowledge around core
Yeah.
Java, I'm sorry.
Okay, you're just talking and I interrupted, sorry. In fact,
So
we have fair what?
yeah. So if you have knowledge around Java and about core Java, like collections and the other types of modules which are there in Java, or also you are aware of some sort of Selenium libraries which are there that you can use for the automation testing, then you can go for automation testing. So we have a course for that as well, but this is strictly a manual testing course. And
This
also,
is strictly manual testing?
I'm sorry,
Is this strictly manual testing you're saying?
no, there will be some overview around automation as well, and we will be covering Selenium. It will give you fair chance of going for an interview for automation testing as well.
Chance for interview, but we're not going to practical doing any automation. Nothing?
uh, I would be sharing the course detail with you, or you might have gone okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so yeah, so what I was talking about was that this is the course curriculum
Okay.
And so I'll be able to show you what exactly we'll be covering in automation testing.
But in practical, are you gonna install us a QTP and all of that? No?
So we will be going through Selenium in detail, and we will be giving in some introduction towards QTP and load runner. So load runner is for performance testing, and QTP is basically for desktop based applications testing of automation testing. Selenium is majorly for web based applications and mobile testing. So this is the syllabus for this course. Rest, if you want something to be added to this course, I can definitely take it up with Michael, and we can get started on that.
Mm.
So I'll send you a mail with the slide and everything, and also this course content. So you can go through this and you can revert back with whatever other things that you want to add to this course, and we
Mhm.
can consider them.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, okay. So moving on to the next thing, project and a product. So as I discussed that what are the different phases in a project, and so you start off with the business requirements, which is the initiation phase, wherein the business users give the business requirements. Then the planning happens, wherein how those business requirements are to be implemented. Okay, I'll write this down properly. Okay, so if we talk about a project life cycle, so first phase is initiation. So in this phase, this is the requirement gathering phase, where business users provide the business requirements around the product which is to be developed. Okay, so all the questions are so when you get the business requirements, you are bound to have some questions around the same. So all the questions, the second thing that happens in this phase is the questions are gathered around those business requirements, and they are answered by business users. So when you get a business requirement, there are bound to be circumstances where the business requirement is kind of ambiguous. So you're not able to understand the business requirement, and you get back to the business users that can you provide some more details around the business requirement. So they give you all the details around the same. So this is the initiation phase wherein all the business requirements come into picture. The next phase is planning. So what business requirements will be implemented when? So what business requirement will be implemented when, and who will be responsible? Okay, one second. Who will be responsible accountable and collaborators around those business requirements. So this is done in the planning phase. So we need to analyze and we need to come to a, make a decision that who is going to be responsible for implementing a business requirement, who are the people who are accountable for it, who are the people who are users for it, who are the business users for which this requirement is being implemented, and who are the people which are the different teams which are going to collaborate to implement this business requirement. So this is what happens in the planning phase. So next thing that comes into picture is the third phase, which is executing. So in this phase, what happens is, give me 1 second. Right. So in this phase, what happens is that all the business requirements are designed into business scenarios. Coding is done to develop the product. Testing is done to make sure that the requirements are met. So these are the different things that that are done in the executing phase. And so basically quality assurance and okay, so the quality assurance comes into planning and the quality control comes into the executing phase. Any questions around this? Julia, Geeta, or Vishal, any questions around this? That why
No,
this thing,
everything's clear at the moment. No
okay,
clue.
No, no.
great. Okay, so this is the executing phase of a project. And then comes in monitoring and control. And control. So this is where the UAT happens. UAT is nothing but user acceptance testing, wherein the business users who initially gave the requirements, they come in and they do the testing to make sure that the whatever requirements they gave in the initiation phase have been met by the product or not. So user acceptance testing happens in monitoring and control phase, and also what happens is quality assurance comes into picture because your requirements are managed, and how they are managed, we make sure that they have been met successfully. So you keep a track of everything in quality center. So let's say there were 5 test cases which were written to accomplish one business requirement. So till the time those 5 test cases have not passed, you cannot say that the business requirement has been met successfully. So this is your monitoring and control phase. And also some other things happen in this phase. We will be covering all of these phases separately in more detail in the future sessions. And then the closing happens, where what happens in the closing phase is that uh, so one of the things that happens is that how many requirements have been met successfully, what were the lessons learned during the project, what are the pending items. So when I talk about pending items, they are nothing but there might be some defects which were logged, but they were kind of low priority defects. And the management, what they did was that they said that let's go live with the project, okay, and since these are low priority defects, we can fix them later on. So let's say there were probably 30 defects 30 defects, and these were low priority defects, and management said that they can be fixed post go live as well, as they are not affecting anything. They are just kind of, let's say there is one functionality on the website which is not working, but it's a such a small functionality. Let's say the help page, there is one help page in which the content is showing but the fonts are not correct, or probably the alignment is not correct. So that shouldn't stop for a website to go live, right? So these are the pending items which are made note of, that they will be done, but they will be done post go live. So lesson learned are, what were the challenges that you guys that the whole of the project faced during the execution of the phase of the project. So these are used so that in the future, if anybody is doing the similar kind of project in the organization, they don't face these kind of things. And then it is decided that how much let's say support will be provided. Let's say the company says that we are just going to provide a 6-month early care support to the end users. So everything needs to be closed in the closing phase only, though it is kind of mentioned in the initiation phase as well, that what are the terms and conditions, and what are the contract. So as per the contract is signed in the initiation phase, where you decide that what's the support duration that is going to be provided for the end users and everything. But that is closed in the closing phase. Okay, so moving on, any questions around these phases?
No.
Okay, so I'll be sending you this document that I'm creating right now, the things that I'm writing down, jotting down, so you can go through them in later on also, and you can if you have any questions, we can get them answered in the next session. Okay, so moving on, product life cycle is not that much important, I would say. Is just market introduction, when the product is introduced in the market and how it's growing, and what is the maturity. When we talk about the maturity, that there comes a time where, let's say, a website is developed today. After 15 years, there might be, so much developments in the market, so many new features, so many new, languages which are there, which are providing better features. Probably, UI developments and rebranding and everything. So that comes into market maturity, that this website has reached its maturity and it's taken off the market. Okay. So if we talk about the difference between a project and a product. So project is developed based on customer requirements and his usage only. Product is developed based on the company specification, use multiple customers. Sorry, give me 1 second. Products is developed based on the company specification, use. Okay. So basically a product will be the website that is developed for the customer, and the project is the whole process which is followed to achieve that product. Any confusion in this? Don't go by this definition. This is kind of an ambiguous one. I'll get this changed. Uh, so project, do you understand the difference between a project and a product?
Yes.
Julia, any questions around the same?
Oh, no, no, at the moment everything is clear, thank you.
Okay. Okay. So now comes in quality assurance versus quality control. So we discussed this in the past slides as well, that quality control is nothing but the process of identifying defects or bugs or glitches in the system that might affect the system adversely. As in, you have to find all the defects, the process of finding all the defects, that is quality control. And the standards and the procedures and the processes that you follow to achieve quality control is quality assurance. Any questions around the same? Do I, Vishal, should I explain it more, or since we have covered this in the previous slides as well, that what is quality assurance and quality control, I am hoping that it should be clear to you, right? So these are
Yeah.
these are two arms of uh, testing only. One thing is following the right processes, procedures and standards to make sure that quality control, as in defect finding, is done in a proper way. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So this is verification and validation. You can just let go of this. This is not good enough. Okay, so this is verification and validation. You can just read through this. Verification is a static practice of verifying documents, design, code, and program. It does not involve executing the code. It is human-based checking of documents and files. Verification uses methods like inspection, reviews, walkthroughs, and desk checking. Validation is a dynamic mechanism of validating and testing the actual product. It always involves executing the code. It is computer-based execution of program. Validation uses methods like black box testing, gray box testing, and white box testing. So this is nothing but kind of quality assurance, and this is quality control. So whenever you execute the code to find out if there are any defects or not in the product, that is validation. Whether the product is meeting all the business requirements is validation. and if all the processes are being followed to achieve good quality of the software, that is verification. Okay. So this is the last slide, and this is the V model. So we have different methodologies which are used by different organizations, and these methodologies are nothing but they're kind of their own way of doing the work and achieving the product in a good quality. So these are the methodologies which are there in the market as of now. Agile, which is the most significant one in the current market. If you are working on waterfall model, you are kind of ancient, because this is the current thing which is going on, which is agile. Then we have Big Bang model, we have spiral model, we have V model, we have waterfall model, and so we'll be covering the various stages of software testing life cycle as well in session number 3. So V model was used, it's very important to know the history of it, all the methodologies, because you might land up in an organization which is still using V model, which is still using waterfall methodology, and it suits them kind of, because it depends whether you're providing service or you're providing a product. So in a product-based company, usually agile methodology is the one which is being used as of now. But V model is also a successful methodology. So this is the V model, wherein you can see that in the blue, if you give me 1 second. Okay. So if you see on the screen, these are the different phases which happen in the project, and these are the different type of testing that happen side by side. Okay. So when we discussed about the initiation phase, so what happens in the initiation phase is, so I'll try to map it with the project life cycle that we discussed. So when we talk about the initiation phase, so what happens in the initiation phase is you get, give me 1 second. So what you get is you get the business requirement specifications, and you get the software requirement specifications. Okay. So these are the two things that come out of the initiation phase. So if you see, business requirement analysis and software requirement analysis. So these two things are covered in the initiation phase. Then comes in your planning phase, which what you get out of is that you get the design, as in the high level design and the low level design. So what you get from the planning phase is the high level design and the low level design. So when I talk about the design, it can be nothing but the high level scenarios and the low level scenarios that are identified based on the business requirement. And also it covers the high level design as in the architecture for the developers, and the basically the low functionalities which are going to be developed by the developers. So these phases, I hope my screen is reflecting what I'm saying, right? Because I'm moving through screens quite quickly, if it's okay with you guys. Is it showing on your screen? Julia, is it working good for you? As in, are you able to, whatever I'm
Yes.
seeing? Okay,
Yes.
great.
Thank you.
So, so this is the initiation phase, this is the planning phase, and then this is the executing phase. So coding happens in the executing phase where you already have the design, the high level design and the low level design. And then also what you can see is that business requirement, when the business requirement analysis phase is going on, your UAT test cases and your test planning is happening, and also your system test plan and system test cases are being created. During the design HLD and the design low level design phase, the integration test plan and test cases are being created, and your unit testing and test cases are being created by the developers. So this is the responsibility of the developer, this unit testing and test cases. So once the developer is done with the test coding, his job is to do the unit testing. Once he is done with the unit testing, then the ball comes into the tester's court. So then he is responsible for integration testing and then system testing, and then finally the business users do the acceptance testing. So all these different type of testings will be covered in the session, in probably the 5th session or the 6th session. But I can give you some idea about the same right now. What is unit testing? Unit testing is nothing but the testing that is done by the developer to make sure that all the features that he implemented are working correctly or not. So he does a kind of the developer does a kind of a overview check, you can say, that he doesn't get into the nitty-gritties, and he doesn't get too much into detail with the testing, and he just checks it from the kind of a eagle eye view, you can say. So he does that unit testing. And integration testing is nothing but checking whether the different modules which are connected are working correctly or not, whether the data is being passed from, let's say there is multiple applications which are working together. Okay, so one application is connected towards other, and the other application is connected to n number of applications. So the data is following from one application to another application correctly or not, that is integration testing. One module is connected correctly with the other module or not, that is integration testing. So if we talk about the Amazon website, let's say you're able to put all the information in the shipping page, and that information is getting passed to the next page, the processing page, that is integration testing. System testing is nothing but checking the end-to-end workflow of the whole system. As in, you are able to log into Amazon.com, you are able to choose search for products, you are able to browse for products, you are able to choose the product, add the product to your cart, you're able to enter all the your shipping details, your card details, or whether it's going to be cash on delivery, and then you are able to place the product for delivery successfully or not. This whole process is known as system testing. Okay, so this is the biggest thing which is there in the plate, that is system testing. So once the tester is done with system testing, then the business users come in, and they do the acceptance testing. And acceptance testing, as we discussed earlier as well, it's nothing but the business users come in and they use the application and they make sure that the application is as per the requirements that were set in the very beginning. So this is your V model, and definitely we will be covering all of these phases in the session that is going to be there for methodologies in detail, and I'll be providing you notes for this. So this is it for now.